Hey, let's see. There. It's funny. Okay. I have this new like work from home setup, but it's not optimized yet, clearly. It is for my work computer but it's not for this. Um, anyway, so we have a quorum now already. Okay, I didn't see everyone. All right. We can call this meeting to order. Let me move this guy there. Now I can be accurate. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Let's call this meeting to order. Do we have an approval of the minutes as submitted? Or motion? Do we have any proposed amendments to the minutes as submitted? I think that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, you submit minutes, you don't approve them because they're
Yeah,
supposed to be factual.
yeah, thank you. I'll catch on one of
Yeah.
these months. Okay, not
Anyways,
seeing
did
it.
anybody move?
Not that I
Did you
saw.
get a motion? I move that we accept the minutes as submitted.
Okay.
Second.
Second that.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Great. Small group tonight. Okay, great. Let's move on to Kelly, I can't see the full agenda, but it might be just my screen. There we go. Okay, public comments. Do we have any public comments tonight? Not seeing any. Let's move on to Laura, the SPP IP update.
Okay. We've made some progress. I met with Kelly and with Brian Gatto, and then I contacted Alder Hanairo as the chair of the finance committee and found out that she's the outgoing chair and Alder Lorman is the incoming chair. So I contacted him and we have a phone meeting on what the finance chair is looking for with the budget request form update. So I will be talking to him tomorrow. At the Brian Gatto meeting, we came up with kind of a tentative schedule, which is roughly the first week of each month to have a staff meeting. The third week of each month, he's doing some training, other training. So we're trying to keep that separate. The first introduction session is kind of scheduled for May 7th, where I discuss the purpose, scope, stuff like that. And then he had the idea of creating a introduction video so that new hires, of which there are several in key positions, and also people lower down the food chain could then watch the video. And then after that kind of introduction where we state, here's what we're working on, here are all the tasks we have to accomplish, then we're going to be having a series of workshops. I call that just-in-time training. So in budget season, we'll work on the budget reform quests. By that time, I'll have met with Chair Lorman and should know exactly what they're looking for. Let's see, we are hoping probably for the first workshop, Brian wanted to do the fleet management. So Kelly, we need to try and get a hold of, I can't remember his name, was it Brent, the gentleman from EV or
Yes.
Energy? Oh, yes. So we want to get a hold of him. If you can get a hold of him and see if he's available June 4th to come to that meeting to help, to do some training. If not, we can be flexible with all of these dates. Brian was pretty flexible about that, but we figured that's probably the most important one to establish early on. So we need to set that up. And then after that, there's the budget request form, updating RFP quotes and bids language, and then new construction, building maintenance, and then the e-procurement workshop, which will essentially just be with Brian and Bill and maybe Drew regarding what we're looking for in an e-procurement software. And then hopefully, having gone through all the others, we'll have a pretty good idea. So we have a schedule. We have workshops planned. We have a video planned, and I'm just making sure everybody's in the loop. So, any comments or questions? No?
Thank you, Laura. Good Dean.
Okay.
I have one thought that I'd like to share with the group. Just in thinking about how you again get this to the point where it's part of every budgeting cycle, where you're really thinking about plans for the next year. The budget is just a dollar figure way of making your plan concrete, and so to speak. And it's very, very useful, I found in my past, to have a what you sometimes call a a plan with multiple goals, such that you need to meet all the goals. Just meeting your budget, if your goal is plowing snow and you meet your budget and you plow the snow, but you didn't do anything about sustainability, in the best kind of planning, that wouldn't be called meeting your mission, because your mission has to have sustainability in it. So it'd be nice for people to create a plan that has sustainability as part of it as they request their budget.
I think that is somewhat addressed, because one of the things you heard, I mentioned the budget request forms.
Mhm.
One of the goals of the finance committee is to tie the requests to the city goal that it would be achieving.
Okay.
And so then it would select a specific city goal.
But they need to select sustainability as one of their goals. I mean, that's the key part of it.
Right.
It's like,
yeah. Go ahead.
Back when I was running large clinical operations, people would meet their timeliness goals by shortening appointments to the point that they were useless, or by they were very timely about first appointments because you could never get them back in for their second appointment, which was planned. So it's dangerous to have to not have goals that have multiple goals aimed at multiple aspects of things they need to achieve. So that's just the thing I wanted to think about as we go towards actual implementation.
Sure. And I will, I've got that written down, and I'll make sure to bring that up again with Brian Gatto, but I do believe that we're on that path. So
cool.
We'll just keep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Schaefer?
Yeah, just in response to that, the council's very sensitive to this and knows all about this. And the city's had goals set for a number of years. And I feel very solidly that when these purchases come forward, that this is going to be an overlay. And I'm not so concerned about it, because the city really is behind these things. The council's behind this stuff, this agenda on the long term. So I think it really comes down to every purchase, define that purchase within the fact that the city is already really working to be ecologically sensitive. So
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Laura. Great update. Great work. Laura did a lot of work again, as usual, on this, and really had a great meeting with I'm blanking on his name, but the city administrator, Brian Gatto, and just really she is moving this thing forward. So again,
Yes.
hats off to you, Laura, if I can say the word hats. Okay, so work initiatives. The green team member could not be here, but he did send a quick summary. Kelly, I can pull it up. Do you happen to have that I forwarded to you? You're on mute, just so you know.
I don't have it pulled up, but do you?
Okay,
If not, I can
I can
hunt.
find it.
Okay.
We can go on to the next one first while you and I find that. So that would be sustainable you. Deb, do you want to talk about that?
Uh, quickly, I guess, Kelly can fill in the rest. I had to leave at 6:30, so I saw half of it. But Mike Miller was at the library on Thursday talking about neonicotinoid poisons, that it's the number one used insecticide now in the country, and it's really detrimental to populations of all kinds of beneficial as well as not beneficial insects. We had about 12 people, I think, if my number was correct. And Kelly, do you want to say anything else? The next one coming up is June, I think it's 19th. It's MG&E, and it's going to be a sort of a parade of electric vehicles. So it'll be partially in the library and partially outside in the parking lot, actually looking at EVs owned by people in the community. So, Kelly, did you want to add anything to Mike Miller?
No, it was just really great. He's a pro, he's an expert, so he's great to see speak if you can see him in the future. And it's a really important issue, I think. Biodiversity is something we don't focus on as much as a city and a committee because we've been really focusing on climate. But biodiversity is the other major prong of what's happening that we need to address with environmental issues.
If you really want to know about this, there's going to be an Earth Day presentation through the Black Earth Creek Watershed Association tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and he's one of the speakers on this topic. It's going to be at the Wisconsin Heights Middle School, which is right on Highway 14 in Mazo. And there's going to be a variety of speakers, but he's one of them. It's basically on the health of Black Earth Creek. And of course, the base of the food chain for fish, for trout, are these insects.
So Laura and I had the pleasure of being at the event too. It was spectacular. It was eye-opening. And what's scary is how, or I don't want to use scary. We don't need to like put fear in people, but what was eye-opening is how quickly we've gone from almost no use to blanket use of this chemical, and we really have not used it long enough to know all the repercussions of it. So it was very eye-opening.
Yes, and we're not going to know past 2015 because the chemical companies were able to get all data shut down. So we now don't know how many new sites there are from 2015 on.
Yeah. So, okay. I found the Deb, do you want me to jump back up to the green team? Finish that off? Or do you have more on sustainable you? No. Okay. So green team, they met with some high school staff. The staff didn't want to start anything so late in the school year. They are open to trying composting next year. Middle school visits. We still need to work on some graphic stuff, but I can email that teacher that Lynn gave me the name about, so I can do that. The idea. So I can take care of that. So Sustainable Middleton Awards, anything to report on, Deb? Oh, John.
Just I took your advice and I raised it at the council and admonished them that next year we want every single council member to nominate at least one person. And they all
Nice.
loved it. They sort of not paying attention to this. And they said, well, where do we go? Where do we go to put someone in? I said, don't worry, they'll let you know when the time comes, but I want you all to do that. So
Well done.
they jumped on that, you know. We'll
Well
see what happens.
done. Thank you. It really is a great thing. It's fun to read
Yep.
the nominees. Really fun.
Yep.
Great.
Yes, thank you very much. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
we have had to move the presentation of awards to the council meeting on May 6th at 7 p.m. due to the presenters being gone. We're not going to be around. So, but it'll be the first thing on the agenda. And it's a nice celebration of really good things going on in Middleton. So if you can be there just to see the awards, it'd be great. I think it'd be an uplifting experience because it really neat stuff is going on.
It was fun last year, that's for sure. Okay, Earth Day event.
Okay, this was mine. There is the Earth Day event that we typically table at, and it's at the Middleton Community Church on Shui, I don't know how to pronounce that word, road in Middleton off Old Sauk Road. And it's on Saturday, April 26th from 10 to 2. And it's always billed as a sustainability committee table event. And I've tabled the last couple years exclusively. And I was wondering if anyone would like to take a shift at that or attend that. It's really nice. There's a lot of different people there from all over the Madison area. It's a good event. And it's really simple. You sit at the table and people come up and talk to you. You can talk to other sustainability leaders around the region. Um, it's easy to set up. We have new stuff now, like we have a new tablecloth and runner, and we don't have a lot of swag to give out yet again. We need to work on that. But um, let me know if anyone would like to take a shift on that. I can attend, but it's my son's first soccer game, and I was hoping to go to that if I can get away to that in the morning.
Yeah. I don't know if I can do it, but can anybody else help Kelly out for that?
What was the date? What was the date again?
It's April 26th, so this coming Saturday, and it's from 10 to 2. Um, I think it could also be something where maybe we can't do the full thing. I can be there if need be, because I did tell Carol that Phelps that I would do it, so I can do it. We won't not do it.
Dean's raising.
I can be there for an hour whenever you need me, or hour and a half, or whatever the soccer game lasts.
Okay, great. I will I'll reach out to you offline then and let you know.
Okay,
That's really nice, Dean. Thank you very much.
sure.
I'm at the table next door for the Friends of Pheasant Branch. So if worse comes to
Great.
worse, had to do both.
You two can like a mini strategy meeting while, during the town times.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So we have that covered. A compost kiosk.
This is just a quick update that this will have the installation of the kiosk, which is our first attempt at helping to educate the public about the importance of composting food waste. The installation of this small kiosk will happen in late May or early June. The location is going to be 2 or 3 parking stalls in the Quarry Skate Park parking lot. So that's the parking lot that's across from Capitol Brewery on Terrace Avenue in downtown Middleton. Plan Commission approved our site location, and the designs are final. We're just working out signage now with the Madison Children's Museum and the other partners on this. It was a grant that was the county got, and there's several different communities taking part in this. I think McFarland and Madison also have these sites. They're really nicely designed, smallish kiosks that has like a kind of a tin roof, and it's nicely designed. Underneath that will be composting bins that will be locked. And it's an opt-in program, so any resident that wants to take part will get the code to the lock. And this will be a 1-year pilot. So at the end of the year, we'll assess, see if it was successful, if people really liked it, what the problems and issues were that came up through the year, if winter was hard or if summer was difficult, what troubleshooting we need to do. And then if we wanted to continue it, we would probably, not for sure, but we would probably move the kiosk maybe to Lakeview Park, We couldn't put it at Lakeview Park right away because they're doing an entire master planning um, exercise for the new entrance to Lakeview Park. So they weren't sure where the roads were going to be or what was going to happen to that site. Um, we would also have to pay probably a monthly operating fee. It wouldn't be much. It would be like a tipping fee for the county to continue to come and get the compost. The compost is the food waste are processed at Purple Cow, which is close here in Middleton at their site, and they make compost from it, and they have plans to perhaps give some of that compost back to the host sites for use. But mainly it's a great start to educating people about how much food waste goes into the landfill and how we can instead compost that. Some people don't have composting available in their yards. They wanted the site to be located near a lot of apartment buildings so that people who live in multifamily and apartment buildings had a place to drop off their compost, and it's nearish a bus line or two, so it became the site that made some sense and that people were willing to give up those spaces. So that's the update on that. The county recently asked if we'd like to have a kickoff event for that, kind of like a ribbon cutting and some education around that. And I really want to do that. I think we need and should do that. But I also don't know if I have capacity to help plan like a big kickoff and educational program this soon. It'd be like a 1 month out. So that makes me a little nervous, but maybe the county will have something that they can sort of roll out with us. So that's that.
Thank you. Laura?
Yeah, my question was kind of along those lines. What type of advertising do we have, I guess, in plan? Because I can see this that people don't know about it if they don't drive about past or hear it. So do we have like do the county, or is there something to promote this so people are just aware, an awareness campaign?
Yeah, the county is creating all of the advertising graphics and rollout for that. They're going to promote it through all of their ways. I'm sure there'll be things that the city of Middleton should be hopping on to do as well, using the county's materials. Um, it was sort of a project that was hurry up and wait for a full year. Um, there wasn't much happening, and then suddenly it was like, okay, we need to know in 1 week where your location is, and it was like a mini grant projects. It's well thought out in some ways, and then in other ways, the timeline is difficult, and they had to hire someone, and that took a while for them to get up and running. So I think it will probably be the first month might be people learning about it, walking by it, driving by it, and wondering what it is, and the city and the county working to get the word out about it.
And just following up with that, last week, I think, uh, John, you mentioned that billboard that the city gets
Yeah.
ad space on. How do you take advantage of that? Who do we call?
I don't know. Whoever in the city, does promotions. It was a cost we had. It was a big legal issue about this sign put up illegally. And one of the ways to let them skate through is that they have a cycle of 10 different advertising units, and the city would get one of those 10 every week. But I have absolutely no idea. I can try to dig and find out. To me, I just go to the top, and I would just go to Brian Goodell and say, Brian, who's in
Okay.
charge of that? And
Okay, because that seems like,
that's a thought, an idea.
all right. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Good Neighbor Fest.
I don't have anything today.
Yeah. Okay. Recycling Center celebration.
This is the 10th annual, not annual, the 10th anniversary of the recycling center being established by the Sustainability Committee that had a lot to do with getting, I think, this one of the city's most popular services up and running. It's very well loved and very well used. And the recycling staff have organized a small event on May 7th. That's the day after the Sustainable Middleton Awards are announced, and it will be at the Recycling Center at 4:30 p.m. And a former member of the committee will be speaking about the how, they got it established, kind of a short 5-minute version of how it came about. And there'll be some food, and then people can, take tours, look around, and in general be a celebration. Um, Brent, the communication director, has been working with Brad Hopwood and the two recycling staff on setting this up. They have some really great stats that they'll share on how much quantity has been recycled there, which I think is important information to promote and get out there. But this really is, I see it as a real, real kudos to the Sustainability Committee going back to 2009 when it was first started. And I think it's a really big moment to have a recycling center that's 10 years old now and has survived and thrived and only grown over the last 10 years. So, if you can make it to any portion of that, that would be great, to support that effort and also accept the kudos of carrying on the tradition of the committee. It's on May 7th at 4:30.
Okay, who's speaking? Kelly from the former committee?
Oh gosh, who is it? I'm completely blanking on her name. I say her name a lot.
Okay, no
Um,
problem. It's
sorry.
great. Deb,
Just wondering if anybody has heard how the collection of plastics for the bench is going?
Um, that is going really well. They may have even already reached their goal. When they started it, they knew when they started it that they would have zero problem reaching the threshold to get a bench. They also don't really have a great spot to put the bench. So, I think in the future, or if they do it again, they may do something where they donate the bench or just tell Next Treks they don't need the bench, but they'd still like to take part in the challenge. There have been many people reach out from different organizations like Attic Angels, Way Forward Resources, some people in condos have called and said, we would love to help you meet your goal and bring you all of our plastic. So, people really have heard about it and support it. And they're thinking now more, I think, about recycling the plastic. You can also take the plastic bags to um, not Metro Market. They're collecting them there as well. So they're part of this challenge. So it's been very successful. There's no problem in meeting the threshold of plastic to collect. Fortunately or unfortunately, there's a lot of plastic out there.
Thank you.
nice. Okay, blending valve pilot.
So, quick update, we did send out the utility flyer in the spring pretty quickly. We had the sustainable U on one side of the insert, and on the other side was the blending valve pilot information. That copy was produced by Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District, and they had a QR code that would take people who were interested in getting a blending valve for their water softeners to the site where you'd fill out a survey to take part in the program. And after just a few days, they had 107 applicants or people who had taken the survey. So there was a lot of interest. They have about 27 people who did the survey and have the right equipment that the blending valve will work on it. There's others who they haven't processed their survey questions yet or gone to look at their system. So, Emily Jones from MMSD wanted me to offer sort of a last call to the Sustainability Committee if anyone would like a blending valve for your water softener, to reach out to me and I can connect you with Emily to get one. I think they feel pretty confident now that they'll be able to meet the number of blending valves they had the money for, which is 48. So this was a program that'll run the entire year, and if they already have, well more than 27 people, I think they're gonna do a good job with finding the 48 people for that. And the real interest for them in that is talking to residents who use the blending valve 3 months on and asking them what they think of the water, if they've noticed a big difference, if they like it, don't like it. And then it will just be one tool in their toolbox that they may pursue in the future to reduce chloride that goes into the streams. They know it's not the biggest cause of chloride pollution, but it's just one tool that they might use.
Nice. Okay. Let's go to operating budget update.
Okay, so this is our balance so far. This is just an update on where we're at, what we've spent money on, the utility flyer, some admin stuff, and the Sustainable Middleton Awards. And so on in the budgeted spend column, obviously, this is what I could think of when I just did a quick pass at what things we might spend money on. I looked at previous years to get a rough estimate of how much the committee spends on admin stuff versus sustaining memberships, that kind of thing. So I put that in, but there's still extra money if you'd like to think of other things you'd like to spend your money on this year. The intern is already in this potential budget. So I just wrote down some possible ideas, nothing that is necessary necessarily. I put necessary for ongoing GHG emissions assessments to become an ICLEI member. That might be something we can find other city budget for. So I'm not necessarily thinking the committee would have to expend money for that, but anyway, just be thinking about that because even though it's only April, the year goes really fast and you'll get into summer and vacations and realize suddenly it's the fall and we still have $7,000 left. So
Yep.
if you have ideas, let Christy know or me know, and we'll, start thinking about how to spend it. One thing I did want to ask the committee is if what you think about buying new vinyl EV, I forget what to call them, but they're the stickers that can go on the EV cars. They come on and off very easily. When we are in the Good Neighbor Parade, the ones we did have, one ripped and it's gotten all crinkled up. So I would like to get some new ones if we could. I don't know if Dick is on this
Well,
meeting. I
I
don't
don't,
see him.
yeah, Laura?
No,
I
he's
just
not.
had, yeah, I had a question, and this might be for Alder Schaefer. What about swag and even for staff? So just thinking about Dean's comment about we want to keep sustainability top of the mind. What about if we bought, I'm spitballing here, like water bottles? So I know one thing we want to do is get rid of single use water, plastic water bottles. What if we invested in getting, stainless steel double walled insulated water bottles with the, you know, city and sustainability logos on there and, give them out to staff as a way to kind of keep it top of mind? Is that an option? Is that legal? Good? What are the rules there?
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's a little problematic spending our money budgeted for sustainability to turn back to the staff. I can talk to Brian and see about that, but I would think it'd be a little concerning. It's
I,
sort
I
of,
don't know.
yeah.
I'm just trying to think, how can we, if Dean wants to keep it, and I understand it's top of mind, carrying around a water bottle, it's not a bad way to do it if it's legal, but if that's not the way to go.
Well, at some level, I think it'd be a great idea. I know we've talked about this a little bit at council about all the disposable bottles. And come to find out when looking into research on plastics, that usually when plastics are recycled, they recycle over a season. It takes more chemicals and pollutes more to prepare plastic than the benefit you get out of it. So it'd be nice to get rid of plastic. Um, I know now a lot of the council members are bringing, their own metal jugs of water to meetings. And certainly a lot of people who see and pay attention to the council and other staff,
Yeah.
particularly front office staff. Yeah. And, if you had things like that, that somehow that, I could talk to the council too and say, please bring one of these to every meeting. So every single person who looks at the council and listens sees sees that as an attitude. I mean, that's a possibility. It's a small thing, but I think everything has to be small and then it grows.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, we've got so many new people coming that
Mhm.
Brian is in the middle of onboarding right now. And I don't know that,
Yeah.
I know we're advisory and stuff, but hey, you're onboarding, you're here, here's a water bottle, use this, don't use plastic, just as a way to reinforce that. I'd be
Yeah.
curious as to see how something like that could move forward, just because I think it would help us reach some of our sustainability goals, and it I think it might show staff we're all on the same team. We're not in our little silos. We're working together, and here's, I guess, a
Yeah.
Yeah,
little gift.
I think that idea of having it be essentially also a workplace health promotion. You're no longer taking in the microplastics. You're setting an example for the other people here, et cetera, et cetera. You might be able to give somebody actually something of, even nominal value. Having worked in the VA for a long time, figuring out how to do that was useful once in a while to be able to do something that, you know, shows it right in front of you every day. Oh, I ought to
From an
use metal. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it kind of an everyday advertising, and also a thank you
Right.
for doing
Yep.
this. We're in the middle of changing. That's where my mind is on this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a goodwill gesture. Deb.
Yes.
Really good idea if people need it, but every conference I've gone to, there's been water bottles given out or shopping bags for that matter. And so I'm wondering if prior to maybe acting on an idea like this, if a little survey could be, just John, if you go to the next meeting, look around and how many people have their own bottles or how many people would have their own bottles if they just remember to bring them, and
Yeah,
just see if that's, necessary or needed.
yeah, I would suspect that most people do have bottles, but it's sort of out of sight, out of mind. I know at the university, when I was still on the faculty, thing they did that I think had a big impact. They started replacing all their water faucets or the drinking fountains with ones that have the cup option. And they keep a counter of how many plastic bottles were saved by refilling at that little counter. They started putting them everywhere. And I think it had an impact. You start seeing more and more kids at college level just all of their metal bottles. They put them on their backpacks and they carry them everywhere. It's a partly to Laura's thing that, in your face all the time. If you have staff with these bottles and every time they're at a meeting, they're sitting there with that metal container. It's not so much you give somebody a metal container, it is that you see somebody who has one. There's a reason, a rationale behind it.
Yeah, so encouragement, you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Setting a mood,
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Anyways, I'll check with Brian about the issue of being able to buy things that are for city staff out of budgetary money. Because
Thank you.
that may be a problem.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go to the next agenda item, which is city budget. Kelly, that's for you, right?
Yeah, I don't have anything that we need to vote on or a deep discussion tonight. I just wanted to prime the committee that I want to start early, which is meaning next month is already barely on time to talk about the 2026 city budget. The way I've seen it done in other committees, having served on some other committees, is that staff works internally to come up with a list of options for budget requests, just knowing what our plans and policies are and what things would be well timed for things like solar or sustainability projects. And then you bring those to the committee, and the committee can help prioritize those for what you want to see for budget requests for the 2026 budget, and then recommend that it be prioritized in this way for council. The sustainability budget items always go into the planning budget overall, so sustainability gets It competes with the planning projects. It's been really great because in the past few years, Abby has always prioritized the sustainability projects. This year, I'm really underwater on projects. I think I'm managing like 17 different pots of money in projects. So I'm not necessarily looking for a whole brand new project that we don't have in the hopper. What I would like to do is support other departments like the water utility and the golf course on doing their solar, which is in their plans, but doing it sooner rather than later because I'm worried about the tax credits going away prematurely. So I feel like anything we could move up a year or two with the solar for those two departments might be great. But that involves an internal conversation as well. I don't know what their priorities are this year. And then the only thing that I'm interested in at least getting information on and bringing to the committee is a proposal for McKinstry to do a roadmap for our to meet our energy goals over the next few years that includes a timeline and exactly when to do each thing, the costs, the roadmap for that. I think they've done a really great job for the school, and I've watched them take it from idea and lots of people interested to actual plan to getting it funded, and now there's already solar going up on the schools. So I feel like they've done the whole thing pretty efficiently. And I've met with McKinstry several times and it would be a professional service. It would probably be something where we'd put out an RFP to um, multiple professional services and evaluate them all. But I think having McKinstry scope out the work will help us with that RFP anyway, to know what we want and need. So that would be something that I'd bring to the committee starting next month. Um, and also, if you have your own strong opinions about things, please reach out to me right away. We typically do a kickoff budget meeting with Bill Burns, the finance director, in July. And then typically the budgets are submitted in early August. There's a little bit of wiggle room there between the time you submit your budget and when you talk about your budget with the finance committee, sort of your pitch to them. But it happens very quickly, and the summer gets away from us. And we only have a couple meetings now before those things are due. So next month, I want to really want people to be ready to focus to talk about budget stuff. So that's that. Any questions?
Dean.
Yeah, I'd like to understand a little better. First of all, I really like the McKinstry idea, but I'd like to understand better what you were suggesting about sort of send advocating to send more money to the golf course and water utility. I'm not quite sure what you were asking or suggesting. We don't get that much money compared to directly out of city coffers, right? So, how are you thinking about getting something in the budget that would help those two projects? And that wouldn't be in their budget.
Well, I see sustainability as coming from all the departments, not just planning
Right.
and not just me managing a solar project. So I would like to offer any support needed from the committee by way of recommending approval or advocating for if the golf course would be willing to put solar in their budget at a higher priority, the committee supporting that. We're definitely you're an advisory committee, so council could be like, nope, we don't have the money, and it's their
No,
choice. But just lending support in that way. And again, like I can't speak for those departments. They may have other
right.
priorities.
No, that helped me
Yeah.
understand what you were suggesting there. Thank you.
Okay, Alder Schaefer.
Yeah, just in response, I think being public about what we need and what we want, whether it will get funded or not, is critical. And to say, I don't know if they'll fund it, doesn't mean it shouldn't go into the budget. And I think we should throw big things in there. And the council may very well say no, but at least they know it's on the table. They know what it's about. They know what the issues and the pressures are. And so it may take a year or two, a couple of cycles, and you can also winnow down projects. But if you don't throw it out there, nobody knows it's there to be funded. And so nobody does it.
Yeah. Dean.
Yeah, and I guess I'd like to say, along with Alder Schaefer, the idea that uh, that we can throw that support, and if they strike something down or delay it, it sort of develops a life of its own. It's back again. It's back again. It's a great strategy to get it on everybody's mind. Yeah.
At some point, you fund it instead of swatting it away.
I have a very high opinion of McKinstry. I think they're a very good company. So, Kelly, do you know this roadmap you're talking about? Just again, no guarantees, nothing to hold you to. What ballpark are we talking about for that? What money range?
I really don't. Okay, I'm thinking this is an estimate. I could be way off because they have not told me behind the scenes any estimates. I'm thinking it would be like $100,000. Sort
That's
of.
what.
They said that it could be reduced if we've done a lot of the data collection already, which we're doing in various ways, then they don't have to spend the time doing all that data collection. It's time, it takes time to do that. So it depends what we come to the table with and how much can be done in-house and how much they would take on. So that's what we're trying to work out now. We've had a couple meetings and I'm thinking about what could I commit to doing and how much do I want to hand off to the consultants because the way they evaluate the energy use and the equipment is the skill set that I could not do by myself. They have a whole team that does this constantly, so they'd be very efficient at doing that.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah, there's some unanswered questions still for um, estimating that cost.
That sounds about right, though, your guess. Okay, good. Thank you. Staff report is next, and I would like to say the first thing that Kelly, the streetlights are just excellent in there. We do have good news. And Dick's not even here to get all excited about that. So, but that is great news. There are still, despite the federal setbacks, there are still good things happening and good things moving forward. So this is just most excellent.
Yeah, we did just get the reimbursement from the last round in hand, so we have the chunk of money from that for the first grant, and the check cleared about the time that we got word that we got the second grant, which I was not expecting, and they told me not to expect
Wow.
money. So I'm very happy we did get the next round of money for that.
Well
And,
done.
and just to mention really quickly. They were supposed to call before they delivered the streetlights to the mock, and
Yeah.
I'd been reaching out to them because I was really concerned of a situation where a semi shows up and no one's around and no one knows it's coming. And they said we will tell you ahead of time when the order is going to be delivered. We'll let you know like way in advance. And then I was working from home one morning and I got a crazy call from Abby and some other people, and they said, there's a semi in front of the city hall. It's got 500 street lights. So I quickly rushed to the mock and they delivered. Of course, it was snowing and windy and very cold. This was just a couple weeks ago. And so it was Brad Hopwood's first day back from a three-week European vacation and he helped us get the 7 pallets of streetlights off the semi with a forklift. So I am forever indebted to Brad Hopwood just doing that for us and without any prior coordination. So that's what my job is to coordinate things. And I couldn't get it done. It just the semi showed up. So that was unfortunate, but that's very much how this whole project has gone.
You got it done. You got it done. It all worked out. So great. Okay. Wonderful. Other comments, questions, comments?
Can you scroll through it so we could see them real quick?
The beginning is very much the same as last month's staff report, but I put it in again because it's the same and it's a lot of information. Um,
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot changed because I was on spring break and vacation for a couple weeks, and a lot of people were out of the office and away, so there wasn't a lot of movement on the projects. There's still a lot of uncertainty with the grants.
Oh, I was just going to ask about the guidelines. I guess that was at the sustainable building guidelines. Is
Yes,
that still just kind of, I guess, up in the air?
yeah, all those you see all these organizations in blue in this item. We're having a meeting for this within the week. I think it's early next week we're meeting to talk about it, and the slipstream and a group of engineers from these different stakeholders are putting together what they call sort of a good, better, best guideline for cities so that and that spell out what the sustainable building guidelines the cities would like from developers of both commercial and residential. And of course, we can't require any of that unless it's in a TIF district or if it's a government building. But hopefully that document that's produced from that will at least let developers know what priorities the city has, and we can specify as a city, we would like to see the better or the best option followed for new developments in our city. Um, so it's still being worked on. The problem I have is that developers have asked, what do you want to see? And just throwing out, like, we want to see a solar array, that's not, that sounds great, but that may not be what really helps um, with carbon emissions, because if it's a commercial development or multifamily building, then you have metering issues and you can only put solar on to cover the common areas and it doesn't really get to all the energy that's used in the building. So it may be that you would ask the developer to meet certain energy use intensity standards. And for me, I've never known how to give a quick answer to developers on these are our priorities, these top three things to focus on. And they may be like a certification, like we want all buildings in Middleton to be certified LEED Gold or to meet requirements for this. And so this would spell it out so that builders knew what we're looking for and what we would like, what standards we would like them to build to, or at least have that goal.
Do we need to do, I mean, are these going to come, like you said, done? Or does our committee do we have to do anything once this document is created, or do you know?
Yes, it will come through the committee. And an additional step that I would like the committee to look at is, and Abby and I have talked about this, Alder Hanairo's talked about it. One thing that happens is that a developer comes to the city with plans fairly um, flesh out in their mind on what they're going to do. And then the developer ends up taking their design, which has already been designed, through the committees, and it comes through sustainability, and you all see it and say, we want heat pumps, and we want this, and we want that. And I think the developers get frustrated because it's so late in the process. They would have to change everything up and it's not efficient for them and not and they feel it adds cost. And then you are and me too are left feeling frustrated because we clearly say what we want and then the developers are like, "Okay, thanks for that recommendation," and then nothing happens because of the process, not so much because of anyone not wanting to do the right thing necessarily. So, one thing I'd like to do is to develop a set of, I guess, guidelines that the committee would like to see. Like if the committee would create, these are the things we would like to see in every development, native plantings, blah, the things that basically a summary of the things you always write up for developments. And the city has that, and it's given to the developers early on, and it's on the website as this is what the sustainability, this is what the city wants to see for sustainability, and it can go beyond energy. It can go into biodiversity, all the other things as well, so that the developers know up front what we expect, and then maybe they don't have to necessarily bring it through the committee and waste, hours of their time too, and waste your time. And instead, Plan Commission can go down your checklist during the meeting and say, what have you done to address energy use in your building? And they can say, well, we've met the number 6 on the list by doing X. Just something that is that has some accountability to it, and everyone's on the same page. The city, all the city decision makers, as well as the developer. Does that make sense? I didn't mean to talk that long about it, but
No,
Yeah, basically, yeah,
Yeah.
that helps.
so
Keep
I think that's like an additional thing in addition to the sustainable building guidelines that this group is going to produce, because the group producing sustainable building guidelines aren't necessarily going to go into Middleton specific things like we want native landscaping. And I think
Right.
that's something that the committee can come up with. Um,
Yeah, you're talking more, like you said, process, which I agree. When you leave it till the end, it's expensive. If you move it to the front and incorporate it, you get your cost savings better that way. Yeah,
they can
thank you.
design it
That
differently. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we need to work on process more as a city. When I get some of these projects off my plate, I think it would be very beneficial for me to sit in the planning department to work on, like, what's the process of a development from beginning to end, and how can we streamline it, just and understand it, and how can we communicate that to residents as well. So that's a lot of work, the behind the scenes workflow and processes.
Yeah. Alder Schaefer.
Yeah, Kelly, thanks. I think that's brilliant. Um, we even when I was on Plan Commission, we're looking at new buildings and people not, saying every stove will go in as a gas stove. And we said, why can't you put a convection oven or something, get rid of the gas? And I said, well, we never really thought of that. And there's ways we can do through suggestion, not mandates. That says, here's the list of the 20 things or so that we think need to happen in a building that has sustainability, and give it to developers right at the beginning. Not as a you have to do, but here's a series of choices. Because sometimes I think they just don't even think about it. And I think half the people who want to build or get into these apartments would say, oh, look, we can get this kind of stove and save on the gas. And they might very likely upgrade to that. But if they don't know it's a possibility, don't know it's an option, it doesn't happen. So I think a list of, suggestions to developers from this committee would be a really good idea.
I think it's a great idea. Okay. I
Yeah.
wrote in.
That would be great. We need to now work on that to figure out how to incorporate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, it's not a mandate, it's suggestions.
Mhm.
Suggestions, and then you infer that if you want this to go through plan committee and the council, it'd be nice to think about some of these things.
Yeah, I think it would also tee up sustainability questions from Plan Commission for commissioners who may not know exactly what the priorities should be, and then but they have this list and they'll be like, well, we know that the committee wants to see this in every
Yeah.
project. And then they have talking points and negotiating leverage maybe.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody who I know on these committees would be totally against this.
Mhm.
It just needs to be done. It's putting it out in front of them so they see it, they're aware of these issues. And for the most part, I think many people will respond to that and say, oh yeah, I didn't think about this. Sounds like a good idea.
And these developers are obviously might take this as a little bit of a hint of what people in the Madison area might be looking for. It might be a sales pitch for them.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. I took a note of it. Now, Laura, it's up to you and I to move forward, start it up.
okay, we'll get it.
Yeah, Laura, you're looking bored on that machine, you know.
She doesn't have enough to do, actually,
I
you know.
know.
I'll get this done.
Okay. Uh, let's move on. We still more questions, Q&A, anything else for Kelly's staff report? Oh, I'm sorry, Tony. You're on mute, Tony.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I just wondered about, um, there are two things about gathering information. One was the EIGP greenhouse gas emission reporting. I think that was for 2023. And then there was the Green Tier Legacy Community Report. And I just wonder whether those kinds of reports are getting at the same kind of data that the McKinstry people, would use. In other words, we're already getting some in-house data gathering started with those kinds of projects.
Yes, yes, it will. And the greenhouse gas emissions reporting, the EIGP 2023, that was just the grant cycle, but it's actually for 2025 and 26 that we're
Hmm.
collecting. Well, for 2025, it'll probably come from 2024 data. Getting the greenhouse gas emissions data as well as getting the Green Tier Legacy community data together is a massive lift. It's like lead all over again, and I can't reuse the lead because it's a different year and they're asking for the information in slightly different ways and formats so that I can't reuse it, and it's incredibly frustrating because we need all this data for sure. But I want to land on something that I can do annually that isn't different every year. So I want a public dashboard and I want to give certain data to the public every year so that people can see our trend lines on how we're doing on goals and also our community-wide greenhouse gas inventory. And I'm hoping these things will get us there, but it's a really heavy lift. For the Green Tier Legacy communities, it was information across all departments. And so one day the planning department sat down and we worked for 4 hours, four staff members for 4 hours. So that's what, four times 16 hours of staff time, and then we just barely scratched the surface of gathering the data. So like it's a heavy lift doing this data reporting. And I think that Guy from MGE's on the meeting. So if I could just plug to Guy too, like I'm meeting with Guy, who's our account representative from MGE in a couple weeks, and we're going to go over my meter and how to make sure we have all the data from all of our facilities in an easy to read format that I can produce reports from it. It does allow you to do easy reporting on your energy, but we just have to set it. We have a few tweaks to make in billing to set that up. So, it's just an incredibly hard lift, but then once we get it set up, then I think it will be easy to produce this information yearly. But it's a lot of data, and none of those data sets are the same.
Yeah, I had one other thought. I don't want to, and I'm not adding to your list of, um, but I wonder if some of this data would be granular enough that it would reflect what each department is doing. I mean, in terms of, say, um, outcomes of implementing sustainability purchases, like how much, how many tons of CO2 has the Parks and Rec reduced, year to year, or what percentage of their procurements are uh, promoting sustainability. Some kind of outcome measures like that would give people really good feedback, but also would provide actual tracking for what the outcome is of the sustainability purchasing policy.
Yeah, that all this will work hand in hand with the procurement implementation, which is great, and will hopefully tease out the measurements that are most useful. I think getting all this data and then taking all the data and slicing it 20 different ways is interesting and an academic thing, but like And I could produce a report, but like it takes so much time and staff has so little capacity that we're going to have to make the measurement and the goals somewhat um, accessible and easy for staff
Mhm.
to look at. But I agree, like you need to have measurement and accountability for things to improve for sure. And you can't improve what you don't measure, they always say, and that's true. So we do need to have all this documented.
Alder Schaefer,
That's great work.
you're on mute, Joan.
Sorry, I just want to comment on this. The data is very important, but I just heard a talk by a 91-year-old gentleman who's an emeritus limnologist talking about ice on a lake. And he talks about a thing that he calls the invisible present. And that if you look at data now, it can be radically out of sync with the data that you compile together over a long period of time. So to get accurate data, you can't just go back and look at a year or two. You have to go back and look through many years or many periods to see, in fact, what's a trend. And if we make judgments based on this year's data or just 2 years of data, we could be radically out of sync with what is the normative over a period of time. So I guess I go along with Kelly. It's a big job, and you can't just go back and put out a sample year or two because it may in fact be very skewed from the norm. So just a caveat.
Good
Um,
point. Does somebody have a comment?
Actually, I was thinking that maybe that's a good reason to be involved with a McKinstry or somebody else who could give us comparison data from similar communities
Yeah.
over time. Are
Yep.
we on the same trend line as them or about flagging or so comparison can help that too. So anyway.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep.
Okay. Assuming we are probably done with questions, remind me of the next agenda item, Kelly.
I think it's the end. It's the
I know,
second agenda
this
item.
month to be greener. So, yeah, okay.
I just want to apologize for one thing. I said at the last meeting I would pull together stuff on grant applications. And I talked to my wife and she gave me was going to give me 2 or 3 places that are perfect grant application to see what we might want to do for the sustainability awards. But then all hit our house and I didn't get it. So I started it and forgot all about it. So for the next meeting, hopefully I have some of that data.
Okay, you're forgiven.
My apologies. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, all right. Well, this is very exciting. We're done earlier than we have in, I don't know, since I've been on the committee, maybe. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Schaefer moves.
Second?
Okay.
All in favor? Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Everyone have a
Aye.
good
Take
evening.
care, guys.
Thank
Care.
you all.
Alrighty.
Bye.
All right.